So as you can see, I put a lot more effort into it than I originally expected. It has a two-tone kind of color scheme. I even masked out little teeth that I saw in a different 2CV race car online. I even clear-coated the front and the outside with flat clear. Clear-coated all the white plastic parts so they kind of have that flat look as well. Put on every single decal, even all of the trim decals. So put way too much effort into it. So I don't know if it's sunk cost fallacy at this point or if I actually like the car now. But I think it does look really, really good. I'm surprised of how much I like how this looks. I'm still not sure if I like the 2CV as a car, but this particular one I built I think looks pretty cool. And also it looks pretty period correct next to my little Beetle M05Ra rally car. Stick the little body on there. That looks pretty good. Seems pretty period correct. This body is significantly taller and has extra scale bits up top, so the center of gravity of this is going to be probably higher slightly than the Beetle. So if you're purely into performance, that's something to keep in mind. Though I think this 2CV bumper might be way more durable than the Beetle bumper. The Beetle bumper is chrome plastic and it's pretty brittle, and you can see mine is already cracked and broken in the middle. Whereas this white bumper is of a kind of a softer plastic and a much thicker plastic as well. So that seems nice and durable, which is cool. But you can see all the lights there, all the decals on the side. It's kind of a neat feature that the rear fender is completely covered. The rear lights were kind of a pain to attach because they were two pieces. There's the main huge piece and then like a really, really thin piece on the side. I had to use heat to get that to stay. I had to use heat on all of the decals just to kind of let them stick a little bit better. Also like these little blinker decals there, I also had to use heat on those to get those to stick down. And even now they're kind of starting to peel up a little bit, but that's just the nature of how that is. I also really like the white steely looking wheels that it comes with. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the body. The wheelbase of the 2CV body is actually the long wheelbase, and it seems like most of the bodies that Tamiya has been coming out with for the M chassis have mostly all been long wheelbase bodies, which is kind of interesting. I don't know why they are focusing so much on long wheelbase. So this is long wheelbase, the Beetle is long wheelbase, the Mazda 2 body that I have for my M07 is also a long wheelbase. So that's a little bit interesting. I originally wanted to put the Swift body on this, but the Swift is short wheelbase, I believe. So that's going to be kind of annoying to switch between the bodies. Because for the M05, for the long wheelbase, it does require different parts and different orientation of the parts instead of just taking out a couple screws and adjusting the wheelbase. So that kind of makes me feel like I should kind of keep this body on it as long as possible, and then when this body is completely trashed, then switch it over to a Swift, or just switch it over to a Swift immediately, put this body on a different chassis and just sell the whole thing. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. At this point, I'm kind of in love with how this body turned out, so we'll see. But taking the body off, let's talk about the rest of the car, the M05Ra. So here we have the M05Ra chassis, and let's figure out what makes this thing rally ready. So the major difference you'll see right off the bat is the skid plates. To me, that includes these Lexan skid plates that you have to cut out and paint yourself. I decided to just paint mine black. I think box art is silver for these, but I just wanted to kind of blend in with the rest of the chassis. So you get this main front skid plate here that goes all the way up front and then comes down at the bottom, like so. And then there's two dirt guards on the sides for the front wheels. This side will cover up the motor. That does kind of seem like it's going to overheat the motor much quicker. So we'll have to see how the heat situation is with this setup. and then another one on the other side to match. And then I believe the C-hubs and the C-hubs are different. On the RA version, you can see there's a multiple mounting points, and it's mounted at the high ground clearance point up front and in the rear. And it comes with much softer springs, and I think also longer shocks. So it has plenty of ground clearance, plenty of suspension travel, which would make it really good for off-road driving surfaces. One thing to know about the shocks is Tamiya started to get a little bit sneaky with their friction dampers, because at first glance these look like oil dampers, but as you can see, all that bounce, they're not even friction dampers, just literally pogo sticks. Before, Tamiya would have little rubber cylinders in the friction shocks to actually make them friction shocks, but these don't even have those. They're just straight up pogo stick shocks. So I will have to get CVA shocks for this to replace that, so it doesn't have quite that much bounce. And I'll have to figure out which exact shocks will fit this, because like I said, the RA version comes with longer shocks compared to the on-road version. So as soon as I figure that out, I will put those on. As far as electronics go, all it came with is the TBLE02S speed control, which is my favorite Tamiya speed control. I like this way better than the TBLE04S. I'm not a big fan of that speed control. So I was pretty happy that they included this. It would have been even better if they included the Hobbywing ESC like they do on their newest kits. But this is an older model, so that makes sense. And also the battery tray of this, like a regular M05, only accepts nickel metal hydride batteries or rounded packs like that. So non-LiPo compatible ESC is just fine. The servo is just a waterproof basic servo that I found from a different RC that I had. Same thing with the receiver, just running on a Fly Sky receiver. So coming down lower here, we have a couple M chassis cars to compare the ground clearance a little bit. Here we have an M07 concept, which would be the next generation to the M05. And this one's set up for carpet track, so it is the standard kind of on-road setting. And comparing it to the M07 concept, you can see the M05Ra has significantly more ground clearance and significantly more suspension travel. So comparing it to like an on-road spec M chassis, you can kind of see where the rally ready designation comes from for the M05Ra. But if we go to the MF01X, which is also a M chassis rally car, you can see they have very similar ground clearance. MF01X has slightly more, and it's more consistent because it's a flatter underbelly compared to the M05. The electronics on the M05 are also mounted on the outside, whereas on the MF01X they're all enclosed up top, so they're more protected from the elements. And just overall, this just has a clearly off-road design to it compared to this car. But this car does not get the rally ready setting, whereas this one does. And that's further confusing because the parts that give both of these cars the extra ground clearance for the rally style driving, the new C-hubs that give it the extra ground clearance here, they're the exact same part, just different colors. So they're using the same suspension components. They have very similar ground clearance. With the same shocks, they'll have the same softness and performance of shocks. They have the exact same tires that come with it. So I'm just struggling to understand why this comes with a rally ready setting designation and this car does not. If anything, I think neither should, or both of them should. I don't know why the actual M chassis rally car of all things doesn't. It just is really, really confusing to me. But maybe it's something that will become obvious once we drive it. So enough of the blabbing for right now. Let's throw the body back on this and see how it actually performs outside. So we've come out to this little baseball diamond here and see how this thing does on the gravel. So the surface is pretty bumpy right now because it's not been taken care of. And to be honest, it actually works a lot better than I was expecting. I was expecting a lot of wheel spin, like no go. But it's getting up pretty well. It's running on the stock 25 turn or 27 turn Mabuchi motor. And it's of course not very fast, especially since it's not putting all of that traction down as speed. But it's overall not too bad. And you can also kind of get it to like lift off oversteer like that, which is kind of fun. It's definitely a different experience to like a rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive rally car. And it does also take a little bit more momentum to get through some more rougher terrain. But it still seems to work really well. Again, with that stock 27 turn Mabuchi and the friction dampers or the pogo sticks. I'm actually much happier with this than I was expecting. So of course with the actual front-wheel drive rally car you would have access to a e-brake or a handbrake. That would kind of help you like whip around turns a little bit more. Being front-wheel drive, of course that only means front brakes. So braking won't really help you get this thing rotated or anything. But it'd be cool if I could fashion up some sort of e-brake for this. I think that would really improve the enjoyment of this greatly. And I think a little bit faster motor won't hurt it either, especially since it's really not putting down all that power to the ground. So the suspension is too soft for it to really lift off oversteer on high traction surfaces. But it's still very enjoyable to drive like every other front-wheel drive M chassis is. It actually handles better than my on-road ones that I used to have. So I'm back from driving this thing around outside. And as you can see, it's pretty dirty, it's pretty beat up. The front bumper really took a beating. But like I expected, it survived way better than the Beetle bumper. The Beetle bumper would have been about 100 pieces by now, but it stayed in place. Just a bunch of scratches. The backing plate for it is a little bit bent up, but it's still nicely attached there, which I'm very happy about. As far as the rest of the performance of the car, as you saw, it did pretty decently as far as a front-wheel drive car would do on an off-road surface. It was really fun kind of whipping the rear end around with the lift-off oversteer. And the tires had decent traction, not the best, but decent enough on both on-road and off-road surface. So pretty happy about that. I think a couple improvements that could be made is it definitely needs oil shocks. It's a little bit too bouncy. And then I think it definitely needs a diff. Because with the open diff on an off-road surface for front-wheel drive, a lot of times the car essentially becomes one-wheel drive. So I think some sort of diff, either a ball diff or a oil diff, something to give it more of a limited slip diff function, to give it as much traction as possible. I think that would help greatly. Again, if I could figure out some sort of way to fashion a handbrake for this, I think that would be a lot of fun to kind of whip it around corners and stuff. But it does seem very promising. As far as the Rally Ready designation, I won't go and say it doesn't deserve the Rally Ready designation, but I think I'm pretty firm on if this is going to have a Rally Ready designation, then the MF01X should most definitely have a Rally Ready designation. Because as far as M chassis cars go, it is a pretty decent rally car. M chassis is really small, really meant for on-road surfaces. So I think this is pretty much as off-road rally car as you will get with the M chassis. So I think, I don't think Tamiya was wrong in designating this one as rally ready, but I don't think they were necessarily correct in not designating the MF01X. So my stance is I think still kind of just either give both them the designation or give neither of them the designation. It would be cool if Tamiya came out with a newer rally car, four-wheel drive rally car with a rally ready designation, similar to the XV02 and XV01, just an M chassis wheelbase. I think that'd be really, really cool. One other thing is, Tamiya actually includes the rubber seal, or rubber cover for the ESC power switch, which they tend to do on some of their off-road kits. So Tamiya definitely is intending this thing to be driven a lot on dirt and stuff. So that is a nice little inclusion in this kit. So as far as issues that I've had with it, I've owned two other M05s in the past. One was expert built, one was one I built myself, and they both had the same issue where the steering trim of it would kind of be inconsistent no matter how I set it up on the transmitter or like physically on the car. It would sometimes veer right, sometimes it would veer left. I'm not exactly sure why the inconsistency is there. If you guys know, please let me know in the comments and how to fix it. My guess is something in the steering mechanism is getting stuck one way or the other. So maybe upgrading that will help with it a little bit. Otherwise, I'm not really sure how to deal with it. The other issue that I've had with the RA variant in particular is because you're running it in dirt and sand and gravel, of course, a bunch of debris is going to get in here. And because of the extra skid plates, it just kind of collects dirt a lot. You can kind of hear it rattling around. And no matter how much I shake it, no matter how I shake it, it just seems to collect dirt a lot. There's a lot of little nooks and crannies in here for dirt to get in. Again, compared to the MF01X, which has pretty much nowhere for dirt to really stay. There's plenty of areas for gravel and stuff to get stuck in here, so no matter how much I shake it, it just keeps releasing more sand and gravel. So I don't know, if money came out of this thing like sand does, then I wouldn't need a job anymore, because it just seems like an infinite dirt glitch. It just consistently just keeps coming out. So I'm not sure what to do about that. That's kind of annoying, but not a huge deal. But overall, I'm actually pretty happy with the M05Ra. I'm actually more happy with it than I was expecting. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And as always, I hope you subscribe, comment down below, all that good stuff. And I hope everyone has a great day and have fun with RC.